Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to the Resilient Voices of Refugee podcast, a space where we host refugees from different places across the globe or people who work with refugees so that they can share their experiences and their learnings throughout the journey of supporting refugees in different communities. And today I'm so honored to host Divin, whom I've known for a couple of years now. And I've been privileged to meet him in person, and he is amazing. I really can't wait to learn from him, to hear from his experience. And I know a lot about him, but I know if I was to introduce him, I wouldn't really be fair on who he is. So I'll allow him to introduce himself, and we'll dive deeper into our conversation today. Divin, welcome, and yeah, please introduce yourself.
Cool, amazing. Thank you very much. Let me first confirm if you can hear me well. Can you hear me? Am I audible enough? Cool, amazing. So, my name is Divin Niyukuri, and as you said, I'm a refugee, but who tried to be resilient through all of the setbacks and circumstances. Today, I'm in the UK, England, where I'm pursuing my integrated master's in neuroscience and psychology. So integrated masters is like bachelor and master's at the same time. So it's what I'm pursuing here in the UK. I have founded Resilient Foundation. I'm just leading that. It's a refugee-led initiative helping fellow refugees to secure different access education in different universities across Africa and the globe. And I'm honored to be recognized for that as a RISE Global Winner 2024 and securing some funds from Mastercard and the Trailblazer Award, Refugee Award on 23 June 2025. That's all I can say for now. I think it's good. I'm from Burundi, but I was born in Rwanda in Mahama refugee camp, but today I'm in the UK. Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow. I mean, your introduction is awesome. Honestly, I just have to say that I'm proud of you. And I grew up in Rwanda as well, in Tiziba refugee camp. But of course, I have so many friends from the Mahama refugee camp. And I want you to take us back. You mentioned about going to UK, founding a foundation or an organization, being recognized, getting a lot of awards. How did your story start? Like, when did you migrate from Burundi? Like, how was the journey like? And after getting to Rwanda, how was the situation? Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was born in Burundi in 2006, and I ran out of Burundi in 2015 when there was political instability in Burundi, and then we had no option rather than running out. And then we fled Burundi, went to Rwanda in 2015. I was alone by that time, but later my parents and my siblings joined me. And then I grew up there. I was in primary 6, but after 1 year I went to high school, and then upon starting that, I had the motivation. When I was in Burundi, I had the motivation of becoming a doctor, but after reaching in Mahama refugee camp, I saw that everything has changed. But it is that inspiration, it is that intrinsic motivation that I had that helped me to continue pushing, studying hard. Studying in refugee camp is not easy because sometimes you can I can remember well when we're in class, we're more than 80 students in one class, and then we're like more than 4 students on one desk, which is not exceeding 1 meter. But I had that motivation of continue studying hard, and in 2019 I was in top 3 performers in Mahama refugee camp. That's when Mesoshalom International, one of the organizations supporting refugees to access high school outside the camp, came and then gave me a scholarship. I went to Rusoma High School, but even though I went to Rusoma High School, I had like a homework or um, this motivation of going back and help other refugees to see if they can secure education. So in my refugee camp, the school is overcrowded, and only few students can pass national exams. And I said, what action can I take to help my fellow refugees to to pass? And then after passing, what then? So then, upon completing my high school, I remember that one of the problems which was in my refugee camp was that we transitioned from Francophone system in Burundi,
Mm.
and then we came into Anglophone system in Rwanda. And then the problem was that students could not understand the subjects, the content in English. And then I saw that. I said, let me take an action. I founded a club. I can remember it well, and I started with three students, but later other students knew what was happening, and they joined. I think we got more than 400 students. I was I was like, what's going on? Because a lot of students joined, but I started to teach some of them, and others started to teach others. It was like transformation. So
Mm.
I transformed the some directly, but those ones who were transformed went back to help others. And then that's how transformation in Mama Refugee Camp in English language started. And then after that, I came to know Rise for the World. It's an initiative of Eric Schmid and Wendy Schmid, the former CEO of Google, uh, where they select uh, young leaders who are making impactful projects in their communities. And then I applied, well, 64,000, I can remember. They selected 500 students to go to the final stage, and I was among them, fortunately. And then they selected 100 to be global winners. And I was selected because of what I was doing in my refugee camp. And then after that, it was no longer a club, but I was like, I'm going to turn this into something that will sustain and help many more refugees, not only in my refugee camp, but also beyond. And then
Wow.
that's how I came up with the name Raise the
Mm.
Foundation. Raise, which means uplifting, and the them, which means refugees and other underprivileged communities, and then foundation, which means something that hold uh, something to be stable. So then my mission was to see refugees achieving their dreams, accessing higher education. And then
Mm.
that was something that inspired me to start a resident foundation. And then
Wow.
after that, I applied it to many universities in the US, more than 69 universities. It is unbelievable, but it was done. Of course, some of them rejected me, others admitted me, but without funding. But
Yeah.
upon becoming a Rise Global, I was supported by Rise in funding process to access higher education. And then in 2024, when I was admitted to George Washington University, I applied for the US visa, and unfortunately it was rejected. And then I could not make it
Mm.
to the US. But it was disappointing by that time. Like
Mm.
universities that I applied to, but the one that admitted me, I'm rejected to
Yeah.
the visa. So I was like, what am I going to do? But by
Right.
that time, I said I don't have to give up, because I remember that if you don't try, you can't be successful. So
Mm-hmm.
I continued. I started to apply to the Europe. I applied to Oxford, University of Bristol. I went to Germany. I went to Switzerland, and I was admitted to other many universities. And then I opted to come to University of Bristol, one of Russo Group university. And then fortunately, I applied for visa. For the first time, they told me like my case is complex because I went to to give biometrics, but my passport was not scanned because it's a refugee travel
Mhm.
document.
Yeah.
I continued. I wrote letters to the university, UK University in Rwanda, everything, and then I was given another appointment. And then they said, we're going to write your data manually. They did
Mm.
that, and fortunately, I secured visa. That's how I am here today. Yeah,
Wow. Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. And the way you're saying it sounds like a soft process. But from my experience, I mean, I'm trying to understand this because I want to understand your journey. You're like, oh, we migrated from Burundi to Rwanda, like shifting from the French system to the English system and finding yourself in an overcrowded class of 80 or 100 students. I'm wondering, like, and starting to support other students because if I look at myself when I was in primary, honestly, I didn't have anything like supporting people. I just wanted people to, to take care of me. And all I wanted was just to go to school. So, where did you get the courage from? Like, did you have someone like a role model, somebody whom you used to look up to, or somebody you could think and say, oh, this person is doing great things in the community and I want to be like them? Like, how did the idea come of supporting young refugees if yourself you're also struggling?
Cool, amazing. So I can remember it well when I was in senior one. Actually, my father
Mm,
was teacher in Burundi, but after arriving in Rwanda, my father stopped what he has been doing. But then
mhm,
when I was in senior one, one of the UNHCR staff used it to tell us that remember that even though you're refugees, but you are the one to change your situation. So even
mhm.
though in Mahama refugee camp, only investment that you have is education. You don't have lands to cultivate, you don't have cows, you don't have other properties, but only education is where your investment will come from. So
Yeah.
we were struggling with many things, but what I tried to understand from the staff was that we are the ones to change the situation, we're the ones to change what's happening to ourselves. So, and
Mm,
then that's why I got an idea like, why can't I study too hard to be
mm,
successful? And then I started to approach my teachers after
mm,
classes, asking for advice. How can I be successful? How can I be successful? And then later on, I came to New African Leadership Academy
mm,
because I used to go to the lab in my school and then explore like opportunities for refugees, opportunities for refugees. And then that's how I came to know African Leadership Academy. And then I wrote them an email telling them that I'm a refugee, but I'm inspired by what they do, their mission of transforming Africa, transforming leaders into actors. And they gave me an application link. I applied, and then after applying to African Leadership Academy, I was admitted through rigorous application process. But then I was like, am I admitted to African Leadership Academy? Because it's very, very good school where even many young people need to go to, yeah, like to pass their their high school. And
mm,
then after that, I was not able to go to African Leadership Academy because you South African High Commission in Rwanda was not operating by that time.
mm,
And that was also disappointment. But one of the African Leadership Academy staff told me, even though you are not able to make it to African Leadership Academy, but your project was one of the standout projects that we received. Please continue what you are doing and continue giving back to your community. Even though you're not able to come, but what we are working on is something that can transform the lives of many refugees. And then I
Yeah.
said, what? Is this what people are seeing from what I'm doing? Why can't I continue what I'm doing? And then I built on that and continued what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I can remember well, I founded a debating club in Mahama refugee camp in like 2020. What I was intending to do was like at least helping refugees to boost their public speaking skills,
Yeah.
presentation skills, interview skills, and then I tried to use different methods that can help refugees to boost their communication skills.
Yeah.
But for me, it was different because I used it to come from refugee camps every morning, like 5 a.m., to my teacher's house before class, English teacher, lending me the books until the teacher said, like, this commitment is
Much.
beyond. It's beyond. But that's not commitment. That was not commitment for everyone in refugee camp.
Yeah.
That's why I said, let me try to take what I'm getting from my teacher to refugee camp. It was far
Wow.
from refugee camp, so it was not easy for everyone to go
Yeah.
to do that. That's why,
That's true.
yeah,
Hmm. That's really impressive. And of course, as your teacher said, that's the motivation is too much, if I would say. Like you're ambitious and like your hardworking spirit, your confidence. At that age, I don't think I had it. Because like when I look at the refugee community, a lot of them or a lot of us, especially at a younger age, you don't have self-confidence because nobody tells you that you can do it. Nobody seems to trust in you, and sometimes even seem to not trust yourself, because you found yourself in an environment that says, you're a refugee, that's all. Like you're not a citizen, but, listening to you, how you kept working hard, tried so many things, and moved beyond just yourself to looking into other aspects. You're like, oh, how can I help other fellow refugees to learn English or, to join the debate club? That I mean that mindset is something else. I mean, it's something that really so many people lack. And you mentioned about applying at AALA, like the African Leadership Academy, and got selected. By the way, I got to learn about the AALA very few years ago. I think 1 or 2 years ago. And you said that you couldn't get a visa. How did that make you feel? Was it like maybe a restriction uh, because you're a refugee, or was it just a common issue for all like people in Rwanda?
cool. It was common issue for a lot of people in Rwanda because South African High Commission was not operating in Rwanda by that time. But
Mm-hmm.
where my refugee status came to be an obstacle was that I went to Uganda for the visa
Mm-hmm.
application,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked me a resident permit by that time, which I had not.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at my passport. It was a refugee travel document, and they said, "Do you have a resident permit?" I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
one by that time because I was in Uganda and I'm not Ugandan. I didn't have Ugandan passport. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have a Rwandan passport. And then they asked me a resident permit. So that was all, and I could not make it because like I did not have what they're asking. I was a refugee by that time. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
passport, only a refugee travel document. So I could not make it. But when it was in Iran, it was commonly issue that South African High Commission was not operating in Rwanda by that time. But in Uganda, it was my status, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I relate with because I've also been struggling to travel. I travel a lot, but I also struggle a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially people don't understand how how can you be born from a country? For instance, in my case, my parents are Congolese, but I was born in Rwanda. So it usually doesn't make sense at different airports when I explain how I'm Congolese because they're like, no, your travel document says you're a Congolese, but then you were born in Rwanda. So it usually doesn't make sense. And sometimes I get to be sent back. There's a time that I was also sent back from South Africa to Rwanda. There are a lot of times where they were telling me that I'll be arrested, or they say that we'll deport you, a lot of cases. So I can imagine how that really uh, felt to you when you already put your effort in that, like did all you could to make sure that you secure a chance to pursue your education, but still the systemic challenges, kept, like making things, hard. Like, how did that make you feel? Did you feel like, oh, the system is against me, or there's nothing good that can come for me? Or, even people say, oh, you're a refugee, like people say, you don't even have to try, like people can even blame you, like, why did you even try? Didn't you know that refugees can't travel? So how did that moment feel to you?
Um, so it's always difficult to even receive that things are happening to you. But what I can remember is that when I was even applying for the US visa to go to study, the reason why for rejecting my visa was that I don't have home ties. It's like it seems like I want to be back in my
Yeah,
country.
yeah.
But the time I was wondering, like, what home ties for refugees? What refugee can present? Sometimes refugees don't have land to cultivate, they don't have
Mm-hmm.
properties and other assets, and
Mm-hmm.
yet they are still asking home ties, like those
Mm-hmm.
things that demonstrate that you're going to be back in your country or in Rwanda where you came from. But
Mm-hmm.
the problem is that the refugee status that we have speak before we even speak. The
Mm-hmm.
refugee status that someone has is like sometimes an obstacle, because when you're even applying for visa to some countries, they say like, because you're a refugee, if you arrive here you won't be back. But it's different case for us, because we need to go study and go back to transform our communities, yet still we are still asking the home ties. But honestly speaking, I don't know what home tie for refugees. What someone has as a refugee is proof of refugee document. So then you don't have something to present as home tie. Only your commitment that you show, and maybe if you are in any project. So that in that time, it's difficult. It's difficult to welcome that you are passing through those a lot of things, but
Yeah.
still the vision and the mission that you have is something that continue pushing you. Otherwise you can stop by there, because for example, for me, I was rejected for more than 3 visa applications, one in the
Yeah.
US and one in the UK and another one in South Africa. If I was if I would quit easily, I could have done that. But today, this is where I am, because I was like, my vision cannot stop here. My vision cannot continue to be in this area. I want to explore, go explore, grab other opportunities that I need to be back with in my country, in Rwanda, in refugee communities, so that others can be transformed like the Jan I am in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. That's powerful because I know that not every person can have that courage of saying, okay, I applied for the first visa, rejected. The second, rejected. The third, rejected. Not because you lack the requirements or the required documents, but because of your status, because, you're from this country and you don't belong to this country. So I really would say that I'm proud of you. Like, I'm proud of the courage that, you took, the commitment that you had, that spirit of not giving up, which I think that's where many people fail. Many people start once. If it doesn't work, they're like, this is not for me. This abroad life, I don't think it's it's for me. So that's really a great lesson to learn here, that you don't have to give up. You don't have to quit until you really get what you're looking for. So now moving to you, finally getting your first visa, going to the UK. How did that make you feel? How did you feel? How was the experience? Finally, after so many days, and you now have a visa, ready to board the plane for the first time. I don't know if it was the first time though, but I'm assuming. Yeah.
It was actually.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting. Imagine something that you have been looking for many years ago. I started to apply for my visa when I was in high school, 2020, I mean 2021, and I got a visa in 2025. 4 years of trying to apply for visa, and it was not easy. Then getting one I was very excited. But the lesson that I got from that is that everything, when you need to start something, if you have something to work on, start today. But if it doesn't work, try again. Don't try to give up, because when you give up, the journey cannot continue. But even though you continue and you fail, because I think that failure is one step closer to success. So it was exciting getting visa. The whole community was so happy. The initiative that I'm leading, the team was so happy. The refugees that we are supporting were happy. And that's where others in my community saw that it is possible. It is possible if you don't quit, if you continue going. It may be disappointing, of course, when you fail for the first time, when you're rejected for the first time. But when you continue moving, sometimes things get well. It was really exciting. And today, I'm very excited that I'm here. And I think that it is only the beginning, and the journey continues. Yeah, it was exciting.
I'm also excited for you, for sure, because I think you're I don't know, maybe you're the second person, if not the first person that I know who went to study in the UK from the refugee camp. Like, to some people it might sound normal, like maybe people know people who go to UK, who go to US, who go to Canada. But if you are from a refugee camp, you can understand how tough these things are, especially navigating the essays. I personally wrote my first essay in 2018 after I graduated high school.
Amazing.
And it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. Trying to join the sentences, trying to, to introduce myself, why I'm applying. It was hard, especially English and low self-esteem, like feeling that I can't do it, not having the confidence. So, like, learning from you, I'm like, was the situation or the condition in the refugee camp the same, or was the education in Mahama more advanced than it was in Chiziba? But I also understand that, it's the courage and the commitment that you had, and like, knowing what you really want to achieve. And how is it going? Like, how is UK? How was the first your first impression, if I would say, about UK, the school, the culture, the community? Are you adapting? Like, how is life like now?
Cool. That's a good question. So
Hmm.
everything is going well, but education, the basic education that we have, requires us to push more like how others are doing,
Hmm.
because something that challenges someone is a system,
Yeah.
environment, system, culture, but it's from your experience that you learn to be very, very quick, adaptive. So
Hmm.
then here everything is going well. I was late like 2 weeks because my visa delayed because of this process of refugees.
Yeah.
I had to present more things, letters from UNHCR and other organizations to get visa. So I was late, but surprisingly, I was the top performer in my class for the first term in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah, in
Well
my
done.
degree,
We are proud.
in my degree, and here in the UK, we study too hard. The system requires too much efforts, many essays in first year,
Yeah.
of course, um, research skills, and then many things. So it's exciting, but requires a lot of efforts and courage. But if
Mm,
you remember where you are from, the mission you have, and the vision, you can't quit or you can't give up. So
that's true.
sometimes can be hard, but because the mission, the vision, you continue pushing. Teachers are very friendly. You can just talk to your teachers if you don't understand anything, if you need support. University of Bristol environment, teachers and staff are very friendly, kind, so I
Mm,
can talk to them whenever. And students and others are so supportive. So I was late, but I adapted very quickly for the level that I became as a top performer in my class, in the first term. And now I'm
wow.
I'm I'm just concluding my first year. September I'm starting my second year, so it's good. Everything's going well, and
Wow.
I'm very
Well
proud of it.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real, you should be. We are also proud of you because, first of all, you went 2 weeks after, and I can also imagine trying to adapt a new place, a new environment, and still being the top performer. That's really amazing. That's very inspiring, and I believe that that can also be an inspiration to the younger refugees watching, to know that, I mean, the refugee status doesn't really. We're saying that you're really an inspiration to so many refugees or even other people, not necessarily refugees, because if you can be able to catch up, from the education background that I know from the refugee camp and going to UK, a new system, and you're able to perform so well, to be a top performer. Really, we are proud of you and congratulations on that. I'm curious to know about, like you highlighted about the foundation, how you started it as a club, and you saw students showing up, refugees coming together, and now being it a foundation. How has the journey been like? Because I co-founded a refugee-led organization, and I know that the journey hasn't been soft. A lot of things happens, especially when you're not committing all your time on the organization. You're studying, you're young, you have to hustle and find money. How has the experience been like to you?
Cool. That's a good question. So the journey has not been what it seems to be for others, but what happens internally is always fight of for like to achieve the mission. So when I started this foundation, what I tried to do is building it with people, and then building with people for people. I mean, I did it with the refugees, but for refugees.
Mm.
So, and then what I I did was, first of all, to build a team which understands the mission, the team who understand the mission and the vision behind the philosophy of the foundation. And I was lucky that most of them are those ones living with the same experience, who know how refugees are faced with the different circumstances in accessing higher education and other opportunities. And it is not always easy because there's always this thinking like, what if I start it and then I fail? What if I start it and then it does not sustain? And then this thinking is what limits someone from moving on. But because we are a large team working with the different experiences, with different skills, it's now going on, but it has not been easy because it started as an English club, but now it's big organization, registered one. So it has not been easy, but day to day things are going on, and we have partnered with the different organizations. And I also appreciate your organization as well, because I can remember that you cannot remember, but the first person that I talked to after finishing my high school was you. I don't know if you can remember.
I don't think I remember because I talked to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, you were still in Alpha University, and then you are the one that I taught my mission. You're the one who inspired me to continue going. The first person that I talked to. You see now?
Yeah.
Today, you transformed me. Now you can't even imagine.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to help. And I think that's what we live for, helping others as we were helped or supported. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So now we are operating in different systems, different programs. We have an English club, we have a learn mentorship. We do field visits in different refugee camps in Rwanda, and then we help the students through the application processes, helping them to know how to write essays, to prepare their interviews, and then also to identify the ongoing opportunities and then share them with refugees there in refugee camps. So now things are going well in the foundation. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, these are stories that really inspires me. I love hearing, people talking about how they went through the struggles, the challenges, but how that also shaped who they are and how that shaped how they can be able to support people in the same situation. And you highlighted about just starting it as an idea. I didn't even remember that I talked with you about that. But yeah, what do you think have been challenging? What was the most challenging situations that you say that, wow, building an organization is not a joke? What's something that made you pause and you're like, this is tough?
Cool. Almost the same to the business and the organization. So most of the challenging moment was reaching out to the people and telling them what you do, and they say, what are you going to do? Do you think this is going to be achieved? This is a big mission to not be thought by a refugee.
Young one, especially.
Not to be dreamed by a young person like you. That was a challenging moment, and I can remember that the first person that I told what I'm going to do and then we can do it together was like, this is not going to sustain. And I don't like things which not sustain. Please, you can find others or maybe let it, because I don't think if it's going to work. Because I started it before starting university.
Yeah.
But as it started as a club, after the first cohort of English learners graduated and they started to help others, some people started to see that this thing is serious.
Yeah, it works.
Exactly. And I started to receive many requests of people needing to join me along the journey. Because, every time when things are challenging, you will only see few people joining you. But when it starts moving on, you receive many requests. So
Yeah,
we still have some challenges.
of
There
course.
is stigma that refugees cannot do things which can
Right.
sustain.
Hmm.
So when also comes to the problem of funding,
Mm.
uh,
I was actually about to ask you about that because I was like, well, I might not blame the person that much because I mean, when we think it's like people starting businesses. Maybe although the foundation or most of non-profit organization, you don't think about the financial aspect. I mean, getting money, but of course, you have to think about, is this thing sustainable? Like, how am I going to sustain the organization? Like, do I work with volunteers for 5 or 10 years? How is the funding? And I'm glad you highlighted that. Yeah.
That's good. I started this as a foundation in 2024.
Mm,
We spent like 8 months without any funding from external people, but the team used it to contribute and then
mm,
operate and then run all of the activities. But later, there are people who see the impact. They have like those philanthropic people who love what you do, and then they can join you along the journey to
mm,
support your mission. I appreciate one of my mentors in Rwanda is a mentor coordinator in
mm.
Rwanda, who is the first person to donate to my
Wow.
organization. It's Benoit Adukundai. I appreciate him a lot. And then later on, other people joined, started to donate little by little, and then help our mission. And we also apply for some funds. So something difficult is that when you're not registered as
Yeah.
non-governmental organization or foundation, it's not easy to secure any funding. But we are glad that we have registered, successfully registered, and now we can apply for different funds as a foundation, and
Mm.
then we can get funds to run the activities and then operations. But in the beginning and in pioneering phase, business organization is not easy. And then if you are someone to quit, that's where you don't move on.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you run 5 months without anyone interested in what you are doing, that's when you say, like, am I crazy? Like
Yeah.
what I'm doing. But the more you push, vision itself can speak. Vision, impact can tell people what you are doing,
Yeah.
and then it's the impact and vision that conveys and persuade people what we are doing so that they can
Right.
start, donate, and that's how the mission continues. We
Wow.
believe that we're going to get more and more funds from
Definitely.
what we do so that we can
Mm-hmm.
continue to transform the lives of
Sure.
refugees, different camps.
Yeah. I totally agree with you that you definitely have funding. And kudos to the people who donated to your cause. It's always not easy. And kudos to you as well for taking the lead and making sure that you're not giving up. Um, it can be hard sometimes because it's time consuming. I can relate so much, especially when you're young, you have studies, you have family, you have friends, you have a lot of things to take care of. So committing your time to something that you know at the end of the time you're not getting salary for, you just the passion and the love for the community that you're like, okay, I love my people and I gotta stand for them and be with them. And I just want to know because what some of the challenges that refugee-led organizations face is like seeing the gap, especially between those that we call big brothers, like the big international organizations, like INGOs, funders, and stakeholders not trusting if refugee-led organizations can do something serious. You highlighted about applying for funding, but we've had a lot of challenges where refugees apply, but then the funders can trust that you can, like you can use the money in what you've requested the money for, or they're just worried about you can't. I mean, be honest. You're just maybe 20 years old, or even let's say 18 or 20. Are you sure if we give you 10,000 US dollars, you'll be able to manage that? So like in your perspective, did you face something like that? Seeing people not trusting you, especially funders, or maybe seeing people, partners, not believing that you're serious about what you're talking about? Yeah.
Let's be honest on this. I think that's one of the things that many funders think about, like giving their funds or donations to some people. They're like, if we donate this to some people or to organizations, they're not going to use the funds to what they requested that for. But what some funders and those big organizations that donate to those refugee-led organizations, they can know that the reason why we started these things or this initiative is because there is a gap that we saw in our communities that we needed to solve. So then I don't think, if I'm passionate about that, and then if they see my personal experience, if they see what I'm wielding already, why can they believe that? Because they have to see the impact that we're making. They have to see where we are from and then what we are building, and then trust the process that we are using. And then, for example, if you reach on the level of registering in as a non-governmental organization, or even though you may not be registered, but if you're making an impact in the community, you're a team of more than one person, and then you are achieving things, you are helping people. There is stories of impact of what we are doing. That should be one of the things that can help the funders to know that the money is going to do amazing job to help the mission sustain, to help the organization, the foundation sustain. Otherwise, the mission can still be a mission, but never turn into an impact. Yeah, that's what I can say.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. Because listening to your journey, what you said, you started from zero, like 0 coin, started with the available resources, which was your skills and your idea. And the impacts have already been made, even without funding. You were able to, like to put people together, creating a club and bringing people together, setting up a team of like-minded people. So that means like the impact is there already, even before you get the fund. So I think that's the assurance that how much more can you do if you are given, enough funding, or if we were just being trusted with the fund and with the resources. And we're about to end our conversation, but I wanted to ask you, like, what would be your advice to young refugees in different refugee camps, not necessarily in Rwanda, because we hear a lot of them saying there are no opportunities for refugees, opportunities are scarce, or where do I start from? Like systems are against us, people hate us, nobody is with us, like we've always got those complaints, of which at some extent is true. Like there are a lot of challenges, systemic barriers. What would be your message to them?
That's a good question. Thank you for that question. So, I think for those refugees who are in different refugee camps, and also for anyone who feels limited by their circumstances, one message stands clear, is that current situations do not define a person's future. Where you are today should not define where you will be tomorrow, and life can place people in environments that feel restrictive, where opportunities seem distant and progress feels slow. But in refugee camps, these challenges are visible and intense. But even outside those spaces, many people carry invisible barriers: doubt, lack of access, or the feeling of being left behind. And in all these cases, the truth remains the same. Identify is greater than circumstances. Like the identity is something greater than circumstances. If a refugee, but you have vision, you have mission, you should not let your refugee status define who you are or who you will become. Because being a refugee or facing hardship of any kind is a situation. It's not a definition of who someone is or what they can become in the future, today or later days. And what matters is the ability to hold on to possibility even in difficult conditions. Because I believe that growth does not always begin with big opportunities. Sometimes it starts quietly with learning, with the discipline, with the decision to keep going despite uncertainty or circumstances that you have faced. And there is also power in staying ready, because we get some opportunities, but some opportunities find us not ready to step in, because change can come in unexpected way. And when it does, preparation, no matter how small it seemed at that time, can open doors, maybe one or other or many. And it is important to remember that no one is invisible, but every individual carries value, potential, and a story that deserves more than the limits placed on them. No matter the circumstances or the limits, but there is always potential in refugees. If you are a refugee, know that there is potential in you, not the status. Because before being a refugee, you are a person, and every person can dream. Every person can dream, and every dreamer can achieve. And then every achiever can be successful person. And then I believe that patience is necessary, but it should never mean giving up. And it should mean continuing forward even when the steps are not seen. In the end, I believe that no situation, no labor, no obstacle has the final word on someone, because the future remains open every time. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I can say.
I mean, that's so powerful. That's really inspiring, because from what you're saying, I caught that your refugee status doesn't define you. And you also mentioned something very important about being ready. Because sometimes, as you said, opportunities come, but if you're not ready for them, then you miss out. And also like being patient enough to say, okay, maybe if I've tried this year and it didn't work, how about I try next year? As you did, like applied for the visa the first time, rejected the second time, the third time, but you didn't give up. So there is power in being patient enough and in, to keep going. Because if you stop going, nothing is gonna happen, like you're not gonna see anything like a good news. But at least if you keep going, you don't know what's ahead of you. So that's really, really powerful, and I'm learning as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. And lastly, what would be your message to the stakeholders who will be watching this? What do they need to do more? Where should they emphasize their support on? Yeah.
Cool. That's a good question as well. What I can say is that what stakeholders and those big organizations can know is that the reason why refugee-led organizations were started, it is because those young people in refugee camps, they saw gap which is not identified before. And then what can be done for them is that to support the mission of our organizations, or the organizations which are refugee-led. Because refugees, if they start organizational initiative, the reason why I believe that is going to sustain is they are solving the problem that they passed through. They are solving the problems where they saw that there is a gap. For example, if you founded an initiative, you are solving something that you witnessed not anywhere but in your community, and then starting something as an initiative, it is a solution to the problem. First of all, they have to believe in what we do, and they have to believe in what we achieve, and then they have to support where they can. Some of them cannot support financially, but can support in terms of mentorship. And some of them cannot support in terms of mentorship, but can support in terms of letting others what we are doing, spotlighting what we are doing. And then that can be good in the different ways. I remember when I talked to you and Ed Sarah Randa for the first time, what they said was that we didn't know that there was something being achieved or being done by you guys. That's the problem. So what they have to do is that they have to know that we are there, and then after being there, we achieve things, but we need their hands in terms of donation, mentorship, and improvement, maybe of different skills, and also in legal process. Registering refugee-led organization is not something easy in different countries. It requires someone who stand there for you, witness, like act as witness that what you are doing is something tangible. I remember going to a district to get a partnership letter, whereas a refugee-led organization is not easy. But if UNHCR goes there with you, if they write a recommendation, it's something that cannot be difficult. So then support does not mean one way.
Money,
it can be one way or another way, but still be called a support. Let them support in any way they can. Yeah, that's what I can say.
That's really powerful. I mean, sometimes we talk about this, and if maybe a person hasn't started an organization, they might think it's easy, but it's not at all. Like even registering an organization, as you said, it's a tough process that you just need a hand to push you, and you need somebody to really support you throughout the process. And you said about mentorship, very critical. We want to understand, because a lot of us start organizations out of passion. I personally don't have background in education, but my, like the organization I co-founded, we focus more on accessing higher education and dignified opportunities or work opportunities. So we need people who are in that sector to guide us, to tell us this is how you design different curriculums, this is how you recruit students, this is what you do. And so I totally agree with you that support can be in any way, the direction, the partnership, the guidance, and, money as well, the resources, donations, you might donate your time as you are doing, you might support in any way. So yeah, that's really powerful. Well, Dive, I really appreciate you for accepting my invitation, for giving me your time, and I'm inspired, for sure. I'm inspired by your journey, and one thing that I would say is that I'm really proud of like the person you are becoming, the work that you are doing to support refugees in Rwanda and across the globe. And I would say that keep it up, the journey continues, and I really can't wait to see like testimonies and stories of thousands of refugees that will be supported through your foundation. I know you've already impacted a lot of them, and my wish is to really see you shine, and I'm sure that you achieve that. And yeah, I mean, it was a great pleasure hosting you, and I hope that this is not the last time. I hope we'll, have more conversations like this. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you very much for hosting me. And then it was a pleasure to be with you. I learned a lot from you, and then I learned a lot from your journey every day, through your posts on LinkedIn, through the work you are doing through refugee youth change makers. We're doing a good job as well. And then I also appreciate this idea of hosting people. There are voices which are kept somewhere but need to be amplified and heard by different people, so that some refugees can know that there are those ones who made it, but then they don't have to feel like close or continue to be in their comfort zone, because there are people who made it. They can do the same. This is good idea of amplifying voices. You are amplifying voice of me, but amplifying the voice of those ones who are not here, because I'm representing large group of people.
Definitely.
And then when you host someone, of course you are amplifying his or her voice directly, but the ones of others indirectly. Thank you very much for this amazing idea.
Thanks as well, and wishing you all the best in your academics, in your organization. Keep representing us well. We are proud of you, and we know that you will do even greater things. Yeah, stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.